Leprechaun Returns was released in 2018, and this is a direct sequel to the very first Leprechaun starring Jennifer Aniston. This is doing the famous thing that horror films have been doing for the last 5 to 7 years, where they're making a film that's a direct sequel to the very first film of the franchise, ignoring everything else in the franchise. This stars Lyndon Porco, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, playing the titular character of the Leprechaun in place of Warwick Davis. And in my opinion, I think he definitely merits the role. He definitely does a fantastic job. I don't think he has the classic voice that Warwick Davis did, but Warwick Davis, he kind of built the character for himself, so it's very hard to get a replacement that's kind of going to challenge that iconicness of the character. It's just like Chucky with Brad Dourif. It's next to impossible to find a voice that just matched the particular character so well. But I think Lyndon Porco does really well in diving into the character and becoming his leprechaun kind of thing. And the makeup looks fantastic, and his wit and charm and personality is all fantastic. It definitely is a good contrast to Warwick Davis's Leprechaun. The only nitpick I kind of have is the voice itself. It's just missing that kind of charm, but it still works. It's its own Leprechaun kind of thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying he's worse than Warwick Davis. It just branches off. That's the one thing that branches off the most from Warwick Davis Leprechaun is Lyndon Porco's voice specifically. The way he looks though, beautiful. And the way he acts, physically, absolutely beautiful. So he does a really good job. We have Ozzy returning in this film, and he's the only character from the first film that returns. Everybody else is a new cast. And basically what we have going on here is we have a character named Lila, who we're introduced at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to. And this is the daughter of Jennifer Aniston's character, Tori, from the first film. And she comes into town, into this North Dakota town, by Greyhound, and she is supposed to go to the same location, the house that Jennifer Aniston and her father went to in the first film. It's currently owned by a local university, I forget the name of it, but it's basically being rebuilt into a sorority kind of cabin where students stay and rent out kind of thing. It's basically a student home for all intents and purposes, and it's being built for that. And Lila comes into town to help build it with her friends Katie and Meredith and Rose. And Meredith basically is introduced to the film because she is a massive party girl, and she was supposed to come help and build the house, but instead she brought beer and pizza and boys, and she just basically wants to party all weekend kind of thing. But the film opens up, like I said, with Lila calling Katie, and she's stuck. She just got dropped off by the bus, and she's stuck in this abandoned gas station or something. And Ozzy comes along with his paint truck, except now it's paint and taxi, so he basically runs his own business single-handedly, I would assume, in this painting company that he had from the first film, as well as a taxi service now. So he gives her a ride to the house, and then he leaves, and he realizes that he forgot his cell phone back at the house. Kind of a silly reason to get him back to the house, but it is what it is. For a sci-fi film, I will say this is very good too. That's the other thing, because sci-fi films usually feel exceptionally cheap. This one, for a sci-fi film specifically, definitely has a higher budget and a pretty talented crew behind it, because this feels like something that you would easily see in theaters. It's a direct-to-video, but this has some quality behind it. You can just tell. So yeah, Ozzy goes back for his phone, and then he hears a little voice in the well that they killed the leprechaun off in 25 years prior. And he goes to look inside. He has a bunch of 4-leaf clovers in his car, but fake ones, they're made out of paper or whatever, felt. But his car is decked in them, so he carries one. I don't know how a fake 4-leaf clover is going to keep the leprechaun away, but he goes to the well. There's this spray of water that just drenches him. He swallows some of the water, and he runs away in his truck, and eventually the leprechaun is inside of him, and the leprechaun bursts out of him in this pretty gory scene. This film is gore-filled, so I did enjoy that as well. and he just basically like births himself right out of Ozzy's stomach. He's just ripping himself out. He kicks his legs out of his stomach. It's pretty gross. And he comes out, and there's intestines everywhere, and he puts his hat back on, and that gold coin that Ozzy swallowed in the first film 25 years ago is still in its stomach. I don't understand that. I don't know how he didn't shit it out. I don't understand how that coin didn't dissolve or disappear. I really don't understand the logic behind how a gold coin stays in your stomach for 25 years with no repercussions, but lo and behold, that's what happens. So that's kind of the way the Leprechaun came back as well. And then the Leprechaun basically is looking for his gold, and he goes to the same house to go create havoc, and he's after Lila. Sorry, I was gonna say Tori. Tori's from the first film. Lila, the Leprechaun assumes has the gold, even though Lila really doesn't have a clue. Other than hearing her mom talk about gold, she doesn't have a pot of gold or know where a pot of gold is or anything like that. I found the characters in this film fun and interesting, and other than Meredith, who is clearly the villain in this film and the one that you're supposed to not like, but some of them aren't the most likable either. Like, you've got Rose, who's the good girl. She's the one who, you know, wants to rebuild the house. She's not, I don't know if she's against partying, but she's definitely like on top of things. She's tip top. Like, she doesn't want to play games. She doesn't want to slack off. She wants to get shit done, kind of thing. She's like the mom of the group, you could say. And she does make some comments towards Lila, and this is like an ongoing thing with Lila, where like she tells Lila basically, maybe you should just not talk about your mom so much. It kind of weirds everybody out. It's like, there's no sympathy for her because her mom was deemed crazy and everything, and her mom like was claimed to have a lot of mental issues, talking about a leprechaun all the time. But no, like, nobody has any feels or any sympathy for Lila, and they're just like basically hinting at her to shut the fuck up and stop talking about crazy mom all the time, which I find like really obnoxious and really mean and cold-hearted and ignorant, for sure. But I love these two characters too in here, Katie and Andy, who were exes basically. They had broken up, and Katie is constantly saying that she's never going to sleep with Andy, but she ends up sleeping with Andy every chance she gets. And Andy's always making the move on her, and you know, he's always trying to get at it and continuously scores, even though she constantly says she's not going to sleep with him. It always happens, and just their back and forth with each other is really funny. The Leprechaun has a dirty mouth in this film, and I don't just mean he doesn't swear, but like sex talk and hitting on the chicks all the time. I love when he sees Lila in the shower. Lila's beautiful, by the way, like exceptionally beautiful. In my opinion, she's a 10. She is a gorgeous actress. Beautiful girl. And the Leprechaun sees her in the shower, and he says this rhyme about her boobs, and he's constantly like busting out one-liners when it comes to sex. At one point, Meredith is in the kitchen, and she's wasted again, and then she sees the Leprechaun, and she thinks she's having alcohol hallucinations. And the Leprechaun makes this comment about her phone, because she takes a selfie with the Leprechaun, because, you know, alcohol. And it kind of reminded me of Terrifier 1 in that scene. Yeah, she takes a selfie, and then the Leprechaun's like, a Walkman and a camera in the same device? Interesting. And Meredith's like, what's a Walkman? Definitely aged me a little bit. The kills are nice. There's some really gory kills, although pretty much most of them are CGI. They're still inventful. There's this one like solar panel kill where this solar panel just slices this guy in half. Reminded me of 13 Ghosts, the remake. And the guy just like slides off the solar panel in two pieces. CGI looked a little bit hokey on it, but it still was an inventive kill for sure. There's this one mailbox kill that I love where this guy sticks his head in a mailbox, and the Leprechaun like it's basically stuck on his head, and then the Leprechaun pushes him over and gets into a car and drives over the mailbox on the guy's head, so his head like squashes like a grape. And that looked really good. I liked the practical stuff they did on that. There's a sprinkler kill where Meredith gets killed, and that one is definitely satisfying because the Leprechaun made her a deal where he wouldn't lay a hand on her or something like that. He promised not to lay a hand on her, and then he's like, well, I promised not to lay a hand on you. I never said I wouldn't kill ya. And he still has his like telekinetic powers, so he starts to mess with these sprinklers in this lawn and like mess with her, kind of like he starts controlling the sprinklers completely, and then he has one sprinkler just ram into her mouth and she falls over and there's like blood everywhere and this big sprinkler hanging out of her mouth, and it's still working, so her head is kind of like bobbing on the ground with like water and blood all over the place. That was funny. It's an effective horror movie, and it's a fun horror movie. This film has a lot of fun moments, and it keeps being fun, and not just stupidly funny, but it's actually like very entertaining and keeps you interested. It keeps you hooked with everything. There's a climactic part where the leprechaun somehow splits apart, but then all his little pieces start to come to life into like mini leprechauns. So it takes this whole like puppet master kind of vibe for a good 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the film. There's a scene at the end where Lila's mom, the leprechaun imitates Lila's mom's voice, so Tori from the first film, and you would swear it's Jennifer Aniston. You'd have to, like, I looked it up on the cast to see if Jennifer Aniston was in here, but no, it was somebody else imitating Jennifer Aniston's voice, and she's so good. Like, it sounds just like her, to the point where I'm like, did they like auto-tune the voice? Like, did they make it like kind of AI in a sense? AI didn't really exist in 2018, but did they mimic the voice to sound like Jennifer Aniston kind of thing? Because it was so spot on, and I really liked that. Back to Meredith, who you hate, and like I said, her kill is very satisfying because of the type of character she is. She never trusts Lila because of Lila's mom, so she gets the bright idea to lock Lila in the basement, and she tricks her by like going back to rescue her, and she tricks all of the friends too by saying, I didn't go back for Meredith, I'm going to go back and rescue her. And then she goes and she tricks her to go into the basement to like outsmart the leprechaun, but then she just locks her in there and runs away with the friends, gets in the truck and everything with the friends, and says that Lila didn't make it, the leprechaun killed her, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, just sinister, vile human. Not like, I guess she's not evil because she's just stupid and egotistical and self-centered, like literally, like to the point of like being a sociopath. But I don't know, evil maybe is the wrong word, but she's definitely not a nice person, and she didn't really deserve to live by the end of the film. We could just say that. So I love this one moment in the film where all the girls decide to grab some pillows and start smacking the leprechaun with pillows. Why pillows? Why not? That's like a hilarious direction choice that was just funny as hell. And the leprechaun dies at the end of this film by electrocution after having a hose put in his mouth, and I don't know what they pumped into the leprechaun's like down the leprechaun's throat. I don't know if it was just water or if it was water laced with something, or I don't know, but the leprechaun gets a hose down the throat, and then they just turn on the water and basically drown the thing before it gets electrocuted. There's a few fourth wall jokes in this film that I appreciated. Not necessarily like looking at the camera, but one in particular that I liked. Lila says something like badass, and she's like, I just realized we have to defeat it. We're just gonna have to do this. And then she walks to the house, and the friends are like, where are you going? And Lila's just like, I actually don't really know. It just felt like something cool to do at the moment. And it really feels like that kind of cliche, like that you see in all horror movies when you see the character walking all cool to the camera, which happens in like every horror movie. So I like how they address that, and there's a few times where they address things like that throughout the film. Somehow the leprechaun survives after the electrocution and after the breaking apart, and he gets lit on fire too. Like, everything happens to this leprechaun. But somehow at the very end of the film, the leprechaun is intact again, and he's hitchhiking himself on a road, and I forget what the sign said, but he gets himself onto this chicken truck called Chuck's Chicken Truck, and the driver of Chuck's Chicken Truck is like hop in the back basically. So the leprechaun sits his ass on the back of the truck filled with like crates of chickens, and then the truck just drives off and the movie ends. Where the Leprechaun's going, what he's gonna do after this, whether this sets up a sequel, which I don't think it does, or it could, but I don't think they have any plans to make another one. That's how it ends, so it is what it is. I forgot to mention too about Ozzy. He does play a continuous role in this, even after he dies. He comes back as like this ghost zombie that Lila keeps having visions of, and throughout the film, the ghost zombie Ozzy is kind of helping Lila out, and he gives that comedic charm a little bit in the first film, but it's very different in the way it's delivered compared to the first film, where in the first film he was very like slow, he was very dumb. This one, he seems smarter. He's not as dumb, but he's very goofy in that sense. Like he's very kind of man-child-ish, but in like a cute way. It's less of a, like in the first one you sympathize for him, like you felt sorry for him. In this one he's like the funny comedian guy kind of thing in a sense. It's just a different vibe, a different tone. But he plays this like silent zombie ghost character that Lila will every once in a while have visions of, and he's got his intestines hanging out of him still, and he can't talk, so he just mimes everything. It's cool. Some people will find it kind of too goofy and too not fitting, but it's an interesting, fun way to bring back the character of Ozzy that keeps this film, like I said, very fun in its mood and atmosphere. So this is a winner. Like, I really liked this one. I think it's a great sequel. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It feels Leprechaun-ish in the Warwick Davis style, and it plays in the horror comedy a lot, and it definitely amplifies the horror parts of it when it wants to, with the kills and everything, and keeps the comedy very professional but mature. I like that. Like, it's not too stupid of comedy. It keeps the comedy fresh, I guess, is the best way to put it. It's a very fresh take on keeping this Leprechaun series going with a new actor. And I looked this actor up. He was in a few other things. He played a lot of body doubles. He did a body double for Little Man with, I forget the actor's name. He's from A Haunted House and A Haunted House 2, Mayan Waynes, I think it is. He did 50 Shades of Black as well. And he was a body double for Chucky in Cult of Chucky, I believe. But he doesn't really have too many characters that he played, and I don't know why, because he killed the Leprechaun. Like, he did so good as the Leprechaun. I really, really like this performance in this. I'm just surprised he didn't pick up more roles. I mean, there's tons to be had, and he definitely can deliver. So I hope to see him in more soon. I mean, unless he retires or something, but he definitely has the talent in him. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more from Lyndon Porco. And yeah, it was a good fun film, and I really enjoyed Leprechaun Returns. That ends the Leprechaun franchise review series. Hope you all had a good time with it, and maybe got a little bit more interested to watch the Leprechaun movies. And it's Paddy's Day now, finally, the 17th, so happy Paddy's Day to everybody. Probably my third favorite day of the year. And yeah, that's all I got. That was Leprechaun Returns. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you'd like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.